What is up, guys? Up7 here. Today I'm going to be recording the sequel to the Hot Wheels Velocity X weapon tier list that I did about a month or two back. Doing the vehicles, the real tier list, what people really want to know. I've been talking with a couple other people in the Velocity X community about maybe a few of us doing this, and I think it'd be fun as people that play this game probably more than anybody, these days at least, to give our thoughts on the best, the worst, the mid vehicles in this game. So without further ado, I'm gonna get started on the rankings. So what I did is I played the traditional settings battle mode on. I shouldn't have done very hard mode because that's not realistic. The NPCs have more health than the player does at that difficulty, but that's what I did. In hindsight, probably should have done it on hard mode. I think that's equivalent to the player's health. But anyway, I played one round. I tested top speed, stunt ability, maneuverability, how they handle weapons, damage taken with their armor stat, and if it really feels like it's good or bad as it says. Got basically comfortable with all 33 cars, I think, in this game. And then I alphabetized the names so that it's not just in order that they appear in the menu. I thought that'd be a little more fun than just the order they appear, because the cars are going to get better as you unlock them. And I think I can come up with a decent enough list here. So without further ado, let's get started with Arachnorod, the first vehicle on the alphabetical list. So how I did this is I got 6 tiers, anything from S to F. S being fantastic cars, most useful. These are good for battling, they're good for challenges, they're good for going through the adventure mode. Drag racing, which is a mode that I realize is not really that fun to play most of the time unless you're doing split screen. But these are like great all-rounders. I also do take into consideration obviously stats, but like also the car's design, how cool it looks, you know, how good it is in comparison to where you get it in the game. I want this to be the best at the top and the worst at the bottom, but I will give extra points for a car like MST Suzuka, which you can really play as for the first half of the missions and until you like unlock maybe crazy 8s in challenge mode as far as what's better out there. So yeah, I'm gonna do it that way. This is a tier list that I made on tiermaker.com. There was others for the vehicles, but I noticed a lot of them missed vehicles, and then one of them did it based on the toys, like the pictures were the toy icons, and the pictures weren't consistent. So I made one here. You can look it up. Hot Wheels Velocity X vehicle tier list is what it's called, and then I alphabetized the names over here on the left, the right side. So, and I'll keep some gameplay footage of each vehicle that I talk about going while I talk about it. So first up is Arachnorod. Arachnorod, you unlock it later in the missions. It is a very quick car. It's got a 92 speed stat, and I love the design. You got the spider up top, and the headlights look like spider eyes. Very cool. Very fast, but anybody that really uses this car a lot knows how unstable it is at high speeds. It feels very little grip. It has a horrible grip stat, which contributes to it. Only 25 out of 100. And stunts 50, but any of these bigger cars, it's a little bit harder to land stunts, and the armor is horrendous at 30. And when the car is hard to maneuver, it's got a 30 armor stat. And it's a larger car, you kind of make yourself a target if you use this in battle mode or in adventure on a harder difficulty, especially against those NPCs that spam atom blasters and oil drums. It's already hard enough to drive this car. Considering how late you get it in the game, it's like the 4th to last vehicle. I'm gonna say bad cars, heavily flawed. There's other fast cars that's really Arachnorod's only strong suit, and everything else this is not great at, in my opinion. I feel like I might get a little flack for the way I organize these, but I'm not a big Arachnorod fan. I'm going to give it D for bad cars. It's not a great car in my opinion, especially for how late you get it in game. It doesn't really have a purpose at that point. Next up, Attitude. So this is the second vehicle in the game. Let me go check out Attitude stats over here. 40 armor, 35 speed, 35 stunt, and 50 grip. I remember the grip being something that was noticeable when I was first playing this game as a kid and using the starter cars a lot, not even understanding how to save a game. This car feels well planted, has a cool engine noise. I think it's based on a Studebaker, like a Studebaker Hawk, so I like the design. Attitude's cool design, but very forgettable. Once you unlock a few vehicles in adventure mode, it's not really useful. The armor being 40 instead of 30 or 35 is nice, but this is not a great vehicle, and it's not really expected to be. I would say bad. It's in D tier. As much as I like Attitude and its design, that's where it's going for me. Next up, alphabetically, I love this car. Diora 2, a Hot Wheels icon, arguably the most iconic Hot Wheel since like the millennia, or the turn of the since 2000. Burt Wheeler's car in the World Race games, in the World Race movie. It's in Acceleracers and it's in basically every Hot Wheels game after it was created. And in Hot Wheels Velocity X, it is a fantastic vehicle. You have to get all the gears in turbine sand, so there's a little bit of a fun unlock factor. Speed 30. This is not a fast car. Grip 50. But it feels planted. If you like the way that Diora is laid out, it's a very balanced vehicle. The grip feels like it could be more than 50. Stunt isn't great, but it's small enough where it's not difficult to land stunts. But 90 out of 100 armor for a car like this out of nowhere? You telling me that this has all of the maneuverability of a real car, but 10% less armor than Surfing School Bus? This thing is fantastic. I think it is great. Has some flaws, but still great. This thing is a tank in battling and is a tank in adventure mode, and very underrated vehicle, especially to like get very soon into the game. If you're playing, like, you can finish most of the adventure mode and most of the challenges with Diora 2, and it's an iconic Hot Wheel, so that's cool. Next up is Evil Twin. I really like Evil Twin. I've always liked slammed 40s and 50s cars. I like that it's a boss vehicle and it has a cool engine noise. I love the color purple. I think it's like a more usable hammered coupe in the sense that it's a purple hot rod and you get them around the same time. Let me look at Evil Twin stats. So Evil Twin, if I remember correctly, is very balanced. So it's got 44 speed, not great. Armor's 50, which is fine. Bad stunt and bad grip. But this car's low to the ground, and if you like using a weapon like Atom Blaster or Laser Cannon, most low slung cars, you're not going to shoot over your enemies like you might with the Surfing School Bus or Hyperliner, especially up close. But it's not great. It is balanced, but at this point you already have Power Pistons that's pretty fast. You already got Diora with wicked good armor, way too fast that's quick. Really not great at this point in the game and in general. I'm going to give it mid. It's got some applications and it's definitely not a liability, but it doesn't really have a strong suit in my opinion. So next up we got Flashfire, the first car you unlock by gears, finding all the gears in Monument City. Another very balanced car, 40 stunt, 40 grip, 46 speed, kind of better than Evil Twin in a few regards. I've always liked Flashfire's scheme. It's a very odd looking car. I think this is the oldest, I don't want to say anything wrong here, I think it's the oldest car in Hot Wheels Velocity X. Maybe that's Shadow Jet, but I know it's one of the earlier ones. A lot of these were first editions the year before in like 2001 and 2000, and I know Flashfire's from the mid 90s. Same thing with let's see here, let me check myself real quick. Flashfire's from earlier. Sol-Aire CX4 is quite a bit earlier too. One of the older cars, not a super important fact, but I like Flashfire. It is a relatively small vehicle. The stunt's not great, but you don't really notice it. I would say this is just kind of the definition of mid. Nothing too special, but also not liability, I guess you could say. Next up, we got Grease Lightning. I never liked this car growing up because of the understeer. It's long, it has skinny tires, and while it's fast, it doesn't really have too many applications. It's so easy to get blown on your side because of how long it is and how narrow it is. Its car gets flipped over with most laser cannon direct hits. Very fast at 70, but weak grip at 30, weak grip at armor, or weak armor at 30. Not many applications. I think for drag racing, depending on the track it's got its uses, but really this car, just based on its design, it's susceptible to getting hit with direct shots, and this thing will roll over with like oil drum hits. It starts to, when it spins too quick, it rolls over. I hate putting these later in-game cars in the lower tiers, but 70 speed is pretty good. I want to give it C, but I think it's heavily flawed. Poor armor and poor grip's a terrible combination. I think this suffers from a lot of the same problems that Arachnorod has. It's a little more stable than Arachnorod while just driving. It's hard to like just spin out from drifting, but heavily flawed car. And the understeer, every car has bad understeer in Velocity X just due to the handling model, but this one suffers from it quite a bit. Alright, Hammered Coupe. Very similar situation for the... Dismiss the sirens. I live on a main road. Hammered Coupe. Hammered Coupe is a car you unlock on Mission 2. Very balanced for this point in the game. 40 armor, 40 grip, 40 stunt, 38 speed. Horrible understeer though, and I think this car is a little bit difficult to use in the same way that Grease Lightning is. It doesn't flip over like Grease Lightning because it's wide, but I would say heavily flawed. It doesn't really have any strong suits like the cars in C and above, and I think that it's harder to drive than something like Flashfire or Evil Twin that have more traditional balance. I like Hammered Coupe though. I think it's one of the cooler designs in Velocity X. I think this whole roster is awesome. You got a mix of muscle cars, like crazy fantasy cars, freak shows like Hypermite and Surf and School Bus, supercars like Vulture and Power Pistons and Sol-Aire CX4. It's a cool roster. I should mention that. This is one of my favorite rosters in any Hot Wheels game. Next up is Jaded. Or no, not quite. Jaded's next in the lineup, but alphabetically. Hypermite. Hypermite's a freak show car. It's got 100 grip, but other than that, it doesn't really have any good stats. Armor's terrible at 30. Speed isn't bad at 45, actually. And stunt, with this thing being as small as it is, at 50, it feels like you can hit a 1,000-point stunt like you can with Vulture or Jet Threat sometimes. And it bounces around like crazy, too, so you can keep the chain going. Hypermite is definitely my favorite like freak show car that Hot Wheels has ever done. It just looks like a little germ, and I like the purple paint scheme that it has in this game, and it's fun to unlock it. I like Hypermite. My brother loves Hypermite. It's one of his favorite in the game, and I think that, you know, if you're hunting gears or you need to get up to something that most cars would start to slide on, Hypermite can have its use. I'm going to give it C. That feels like really high, but I'm going to give it C. I love Hypermite, and I think it has its uses. Alright, next up, Hyperliner. Hyperliner. This is the, I think this is Sparky's car in the story mode. Fantastic armor at 80. This is a tank. It's basically a more usable Surf and School Bus. It's a big yellow tank, but it drives. It's tall, so one thing I was noting with cars like, I would say Mega Duty has this problem. Hyperliner has this problem. Surf and School Bus has this problem where you can shoot over your enemy when you're too close. Hyperliner has this problem, at least in my experience. Yeah, I dealt with that in the battle mode on the PC version that I was doing in preparation for this video, and I also had that problem on the PS2 version growing up. But Hyperliner is much more usable. Grip at 50 is pretty good, means it's usable, handles well. Stunt and speed are not really things you're expecting with a car that looks like this. Hyperliner's cool. I've never seen it in a game outside of this, so it's cool that it has such an important role in the story and also is a good usable battle car. Hyperliner is a good battler. I think that it is a good car without liability. I think it's the first B tier. It doesn't have the benefits of like the low slung car handling that Diora has, and it has 10 less armor than Diora, but I like Hyperliner. I think it has its purpose. Let's see. Next up is Jaded. I really like Jaded. I think Jaded's underrated, especially that rhymes. Especially for being unlocked so soon in the adventure mode. 60 stunt, 50 grip, 62 speed. It's a really cool, I think it's also a Studebaker, what it's based on. It's like a really cool drag car, funny car design. It's driven by Nitro in the first like best of 3 race that you have to do in Mission 3. I think Jaded did great, especially unlocking them before we even get the Turbine Sands. I like cars with body roll because they're easy to drift, and this one has some body roll. If you drive anything like Evil Twin, well, not Evil Twin, Hammered Coupe or Jet Threat, there's no suspension. The car doesn't rock on its body like MST Suzuka or Showstopper does. Jaded does do that, and I think that makes it more fun to drive. I really like Jaded. I think it is a good car with its purpose. Really no liability. The armor's weak, but many cars in Velocity have armor under 40. So the average car, I would say, isn't really a tank. I'm going to give Jaded B tier. And it's also a boss car, which is a little bit fun. Next up, the last car in the game. I was unable to find the 8th, 9th, and 10th, well, more like the 9th and 10th gear for the longest time. I've been playing Velocity X probably since I was 4 or 5, and it took me until like 2013 or 14 when I was like 11 to beat the game in 100% and find those last 2 gears without using a guide. Never occurred to me to use a guide. But Jet Threat 3.0. This car has many purposes. Speed is 90. It's extremely fast. This thing will do like 225 miles an hour. Stunt is 100. This thing is like looks like a ninja star flying through the air. Grip's terrible, armor's terrible, but you really don't notice grip sometimes being that bad, especially if a car's planted like this. And it's fast and evasive enough where your armor's probably not in question too much. I think Jet Threat's awesome. It's basically just a jet on wheels, and being one of the last cars that you unlock and the difficulty that it is I like Jet Threat. I'm going to say that it is a great car. When you have stunt that high and speed that high, it becomes really fun to joyride in this car. You can like cut through the air when you're spinning on your x-axis. It just looks like a ninja star flying through the air. It is a cool car. Yeah, I'm a big Jet Threat 3.0 fan. Let me think. Should I put that in B or A? It is at the top of the list. I'm going to say great car, has flaws, but still great. Yeah, I think that's fair for Jet Threat. Next up is Crazy Eights. This is a fan favorite. Stars as a dune rat in World Race, and that's after this game. It was a star in Crazy Eights. It was a star in Velocity X first. Crazy Eights you get from beating the challenge mode, beating Challenge 18. This is a great well-rounder. 75 armor is great. 68 speed is very good. Your stunt isn't that bad, and grip's not very good, but Crazy Eights is a wacky design. I forget what engine size it's supposed to be, but very cool car. It's fun that it's the last one to unlock through challenges. For the longest time, I couldn't beat the challenge where you get 60 gears in that underworld stage, so it took me a while to beat that, and then the next two challenges after that are difficult. So Crazy Eights is one that was a big deal for me when I unlocked it for the first time as a kid. And it's a great well-rounder. I know a lot of people do playthroughs with Crazy Eights and speed runs with Crazy Eights. I'm going to say it's a great car with flaws, but it is still a great car. Next up is Lakester. Lakester is my personal favorite as far as what I like, my go-to for battling. It's well planted on 4 giant wheels. It has 2 points on the end, so if you mess up a stunt, it'll bounce off usually one of those points. You can keep going. Very good grip. It's got body roll, so you can drift it, and it's low slung and a small target. Lakester's cool. It's a little salt flat racer. Look at stunts, very well rounded. Nothing's under 50. Stunt is 50, speed is 50, armor is 60, which means it's on the more tanky side of other cars, and grip is 60. Perfect well-rounder. I like the paint scheme. I've always liked Lakester. You get it from going on that crazy roller coaster that's in the intro, finding the key in Crankshaft Bay. I'm not going to let personal bias get in the way, but I do think it is a good car, not a liability. It's not great. Nothing's over 60. You don't have fantastic stats here, but it's definitely very usable. And by the way, I'm not doing like the front of the tier is the best and the back of the tier is the worst. These are just organized into tiers. Nothing much more complex than that. Let's see here. MST Suzuka. Next alphabetically is MST Suzuka, the cover car. Maximum Justice's car, the most iconic car from this game. Our profile picture for the last 9 years. Or I think we started with something different, but our profile picture, our namesake. MST Suzuka. So I am surprised I'm putting it at this high. I was thinking because armor's bad, stunt's bad, speed's okay, and grip's okay, but this car feels better than those stats. It handles extremely well. I think it's the best starter car, and let's see what you unlock after it. You unlock Flashfire. I think it's better than Flashfire. You unlock Mega Duty. I think it's more usable than Mega Duty. Really, there's nothing better than this car until I don't know. Muscle Tone's technically better on stats, but I think that MST handles better and is easier to use. I would say Showstopper's like a better rendition of MST, and you don't get that until you start playing challenge mode. But something about this car being so iconic within the game, I use it more often than almost anything. If I'm doing a playthrough, I'll just play MST really until it's a liability. I'm going to be realistic and say it's a mid car with some applications, but it's definitely the best starter in my opinion. And yeah, the stats are bad enough where I can't put it anything above C, but I just said I'm not doing it this way, but I'm going to put it at the front of C tier. Just for fun. I'm not going to do that with the rest. MST Suzuka. Very good car, especially as a starter. Alright, next up is Maelstrom. My second favorite in the game. I love this car's design. It looks like a Corvette crossed with a hammerhead shark crossed with a razor blade. This thing is crazy looking. This is like the secret car that you have to protect, I think, in mission like 8 or something like that. Very cool car. Maelstrom, the stats Armor's bad at 30, but speed at 58 is pretty good. And stunt, this is a great car for stunts at 70. It's small. It has good grip at 60. This is a good, well-rounded vehicle. Considering most cars in Velocity X have poor armor, I don't really knock too much for poor armor. Stunt and speed are the most important for maneuverability. And, you know, a lot of the enemy cars use vehicles with poor armor, so it doesn't become a problem usually. You unlock it through adventure mode, about mid-adventure mode. And I've always loved the design. It's one of the only blue vehicles. I think it's pretty cool. Maelstrom, I'm gonna give it B tier here. The stunts are like speed, stunt, grip. They're all pretty solid. It's a good well-rounder, and I love the design. And it's like in the intro is like the guy that's egging on Max. So it's also got like that iconic factor. Yeah, Maelstrom is at B. Mega Duty. I like Mega Duty. It's the one of two trucks, if you don't want to call Diora and Servant School Bus a truck. The first car unlocked with a key. It was always exciting to unlock Mega Duty. But even though the armor stat on Mega Duty is pretty dang good at 60, I think, which is twice as good at anything up to that point, it doesn't take long before you're at Diora with 90. And this car handles terribly, I remember. The grip is good at 60, but the understeer on this one is terrible. The gun being mounted at the top of the vehicle and the front being so short, like it doesn't have much overhang. I noticed I was shooting over my opponents a lot, especially with stuff like a super zapper or laser cannon. So I'm not a big Mega Duty fan. And also some cars, let me think of some. Twin Mill 2, Mega Duty, and what's another one with that engine noise? I don't know, but this car's an annoying engine noise. Twin Mill 2 and Mega Duty, I remember having this engine sound. It's like so high-pitched and obnoxious. I'm not a big Mega Duty fan. I think it's heavily flawed. It's got some decent armor, but it's easy to flip over, and it doesn't handle well at all. I'm going to say it's really not on the level of these ones down here, but I never use it, ever. Grip and armor at 60 this early in the game, it's hard to put it below C. I'm going to put it at C, but I'm tempted to put it at D. I would never use Mega Duty. I bet if you looked at my lifetime car selection choices, it's at the bottom 2 or 3. I like Mega Duty. I used to play it in Stunt Truck Challenge. It's cool that it's in this game. It's in World Race, but not a big Mega Duty fan. Muscle Tone. The first car you unlock in the missions. I love the way this thing looks. If you notice, Muscle Tone in Velocity X looks nothing like it does as a toy or in any other game. It's a pretty poor model. I like the way it looks, but it doesn't really look like the toy. It's got like a front body clip. The rear end is completely flat versus rounded like the others are. It's cool looking, but it definitely is unique versus any other 3D model of Muscle Tone that I've seen. Armor's weak, stunt is 40, speed's 42, and grip is pretty good at 60. I like Muscle Tone. I don't really have much poor to say about Muscle Tone. I think it's mid with some applications, but it's teeter-tottering on D, but I'll do C. I like when you steal the money from the Muscle Tone in Mission 3 and deliver it to Nitro. I like Muscle Tone. Next up is Overboard 454. So we're back to the starters here. Overboard has good grip, good speed at 44. 55 grip, I should have said. Stunt is 40, speed is 30. I like Overboard because it is another fun car to drift around, and I like the whole design of Overboard. It's like a kind of a futuristic muscle car with the big blown V8 in the front, but not too many applications, in my opinion. You expect, because this looks tanky, to be stronger than it is, but armor at 30 is pretty bad. Starter cars are starter cars, but I'm going to put this in the D tier, heavily flawed. Yeah. Next up is Power Pistons. I love the look of Power Pistons. I had the toy of this one growing up, the Bug series. Power Pistons is so cool looking, especially being bright orange. It stands out from the rest of the roster. It's always been one of my favorite fantasy castings since World Race. It's fast. It's 62 speed, 40 stunt, but grip is 25. I don't know if it gets much worse in this game. And armor's 30. Speed at 62 isn't great at this point. You have Way Too Fast and Jaded beforehand that are better. I think that Power Pistons is heavily flawed. I don't really think it has many applications. I want to give it more credit for its design, but really, it's not super usable. And I think this does have a tendency to spin out too. I remember trying to get gears with it when I was 100%ing the PC version, and I'm like, I had to switch to a different car because I was like falling off of ledges and stuff. All right, we're at the midpoint of the list, a little past it, but close. Power Rocket, hidden key car for the underworld. Power Rocket's stats. Power Rocket's pretty damn good. Armor at 65 is on the way better side. Speed at 82 is very good, and stunt at 50 is makes up for its size, so you're not like landing on your roof because you're under rotating. Grip at 40 is not good, but it's also not the worst. We just had a car with 25 grip and worse stats everywhere else. It better be good. It's the second to last car in the game, which means you don't get to use it for much of the game unless you do all the gears and keys first. Power Rocket's pretty dang good. I'm going to say it has its flaws, but it is a tier car. Man, I don't got anything in S yet. I need to be careful. I'm going to like end up only having like 1 or 2 cars in S. Next up, I might adjust this list a little bit and cut back to it. Prototype 12. So the namesake of the game. 100 speed. This car will do like 230 miles an hour with turbo. Stunt at 60 is pretty good too. I love high stunt, high speed combos. Armor's really bad at 30, considering this is like a larger car. It's more of a target. And grip at 25 is horrendous. So it kind of quickly balances out to like a 50 or 60 overall when you do it that way. But being its autos car and you unlock it in the last mission of the game, it's got a really big cool factor. I don't think it's a liability. I also don't think it is great. I think this is high B, maybe low A tier. I'm going to get flack for that. It is 100 speed. It's the only 100 speed. But armor's really weak. You notice a lot of the cars up there, minus Jet Threat, which has 100 stunt, they have armor capabilities. Like, they can tank damage a little bit. Especially Power Rocket and Crazy 8s are kind of underrated in aspect, with still good speed. I'm going to put it at B. You can't really battle with Prototype. It's more of a, challenge car or a drag race car. Rieger motor. I think Rieger motor is really cool. I think it's underrated. It's kind of like a better version of Way Too Fast. It's a little bit quicker, but got better stats in other areas. 30 armor is pretty bad. Speed at 68 is solid. Stunt at 35 is bad. Grip at 40 is bad. I think it's got a wicked cool design. It's basically like an old rat rod. It's a coffin, actually. I think that's why it's called Rieger motor. And if you notice, I'm not sure if it's like a graphics thing, but whenever I brake, the 2 red eyes on the back of Rieger motor and the skulls, they light up, and that's pretty cool. I think Rieger motor's got one of the highest cool factors of any cars in this game. It has some applications, but I'm gonna kind of just say mid. It kind of just belongs in C tier. A lot of cars in this game are gonna be in C and D tier, with very few above that. But yeah, I hate to put it there, but that's where it is. I think, Jet Threat's really good for getting gears and hard to reach places. It's very good for, kind of just zooming around in battle mode. And when you can make the car flat in the air, upright, it's long. It can be good for catching power-ups and secret items and stuff like that. I think I'm going to move Jet Threat to our first S. If you want to like go for stunt records, it's a good car for that. I'm going to put Jet Threat in S. We need something in every category. I'm tempted to put Crazy 8s there, but I think it's more of just a fan favorite than really having the stats to back up an S rating. Yeah. All right, that's my first S. I know what else is going in S, but I'm looking at the rest of the list. I don't think I have anything else other than the second one in S I'm going to put. All right, next up, Shadowjet. Shadowjet, really cool car. I remember playing this one in Stunt Track Driver. It's also in Turbo Racing. It's in a lot of Hot Wheels games. I like how you got Jet Threat. You also got Shadowjet. You got Power Rocket. There's like a jet engine theme. Kind of reminds me of a jet with the wings cut off. I like Shadowjet. Its armor at 30 is pretty weak, but this car is really tiny. Stunt at 80 is really good, and Shadowjet has a tendency to like bounce when you land, so you can land some crazy stunts with Shadowjet. Grip at 60 is solid, and speed at 66 is very solid. Shadowjet's great. Shadowjet's underrated. I'm going to put Shadowjet at great cars with liabilities, but being so small, it's kind of a good little car to zoom around and battle with. Yeah, I'm pretty confident low A with Shadow Jet. Next up, Showstopper. So the first car you unlock through challenges, I think it's challenge 7. Showstopper. I love Showstopper. It's got big wheels. It's got suspension travel. Speed at 50 at this point in the game is, I think, the fastest car yet. I don't think anything has 50 speed until Showstopper. Yeah, I like Showstopper. This is I think one of Sparky's cars. Maybe I'm mixing this up with something else. I don't know. Doesn't matter. This is more about how they handle in battle and drag race. I love Showstopper. It's a fan favorite. There's a kid on my YouTube channel that's like, make more videos about Showstopper. Make more videos about Showstopper. I dig Showstopper. It's like another two-door tuner, kind of like MST Suzuka, and that makes it cool. I'm going to give it... It's definitely better than MST. It's not on the level of Prototype, let's be real. I'm going to put it at C tier. But there's some cars I'd choose over others in C tier in like a heartbeat, but they're not necessarily better. Like, if I'm in the mood to get gears, I'm going to pick Hyperliner. If I'm in the mood to just have fun in battle mode with a well-rounded but not OP car, I'm going to pick Showstopper, you know. So, have some applications. That's what I was going for with these like detailed list names. Alright, this is going to be a long video, but this is like the magnum opus for my rankings of these cars. I'm consulting the stats. I played each one in a battle mode, and there's going to be gameplay footage showing. Sol-Aire, no, Split and Image 2. Split and Image 2. This is Fastlane's car. Lots of purples in Hot Wheels Velocity X. I'm a big fan of the color purple, and I love the paint scheme of Split and Image 2. It's fast with good stunt, but other than that, it's kind of just a well-rounder other than armor, which is pretty weak. 50 grip, 60 stunt, 62 speed. I like this car. I've always loved Split and Image 2. I like Split and Image 1. This was a fun car to play in Hot Wheels Turbo Racing, the game that came out a few years before this on the 64 and PS1. But really, is it any better than like anything like a Jaded or a Maelstrom? I would say yes, but it's definitely not on A tier. This is a solid B. Really just for that stunt and speed stat, but it's really teeter-tottering on C. There's nothing special about Split and Image 2. 62 stunt, or 60 stunt and 62 speed aren't great. They're not bad, but this is also mid-game, so that's where you expect stats to be for the cars you're unlocking. That's where I'm going to put it. I think that's fair. Sol-Aire CX4. I love Sol-Aire CX4. I also love like 90s and 80s Le Mans cars and GT cars, and that's what this is based off of. One of the most iconic cars in Hot Wheels gaming because of Hot Wheels Stunt Track Driver. And then there was a video on YouTube like called The Greatest Hot Wheels Track Ever or something, and it starred a Sol-Aire CX4 in the Team Hot Wheels livery. So it's a pretty iconic car. 76 speed is very good, but the other stats kind of suck. 30 armor is bad, 30 grip is bad, 45 stunt is okay, but I love the way this car looks, and it's low slung. I'm going to give it, let's think here, 76 speed is pretty dang good, but a lot of other cars are fast. I think it has some applications, but the other stats being as poor as they are really knocks this down. It hurts me to put it there, but I think Sol-Aire CX4 is in C tier. Yeah, C tier, maybe high C tier, but really doesn't make a difference. I wasn't using that ranking system before, so. Sufast. I think this is the second or third to last starter. We're going to have a lot of starters at the bottom here. Sufast. Very forgettable vehicle. 30 armor, horrible. 30 stunt, horrible. 36 speed, horrible. And grip at 55 or 65 is good, but really, there's not much this car does well. I hate to say it, and it also suffers from poor understeer. I'm going to put Sufast F or D. It's one or the other, but I don't like this car as far as usability. We're going to have a couple bad ones in a row here. Next up is Super Tuned. I like Super Tuned. I like tuner trucks. It reminds me of like Fast and the Furious or something like that, or Need for Speed. But 30 speed is really bad. This is one of the slowest cars in the game. 30 stunt is pretty damn bad. Grip at 50 is not bad, but grip at this point in the game doesn't matter. And armor at 40 is okay. You'd think it'd be more than 5 better for a truck, considering Mega Duty's up at 60 something, but really not great. Really not great. I'm gonna really, it's not much worse than Attitude. I'm gonna put it at D. I might bump Sue Fast up to D. Alright, now Surf Crate. I made a F tier for Surf Crate before I started this because I hate Surf Crate so much. But let me really give Surf Crate a shot. Driving as this car is hard. It is extremely narrow. It's got some of the worst armor in the game. It rolls over easily. It doesn't handle well. Bad understeer. It's really poor. Grip at 55, you wouldn't know. It rolls over. It spins out. Stunt at 40 is pretty bad, but not really its problem. It's slow, especially being this late in the game. 36 speed right before Rieger motor, and like that's horrible. And the armor is terrible. I don't like this car. I think it's the worst at this stage. Like, you don't lock anything nearly as bad as this afterwards or before this. I hate Surf Crate. I think it should have been a starter car with these type of stats. I'm putting an F tier. I'm standing behind that. I like hot rods, but it's not like it's any cooler than, you know, Rieger motor, which does that layout better. It's not as cool as Way Too Fast. Yeah, it's terrible. I might bounce. Let me see. Sue Fast. Let me look at the stats of Sue Fast again. Sue Fast is 65 grade. Everything else is horrendous with Sue Fast, though. I'm going to keep Sue Fast at F tier. Everything else is basically 30 for Sue Fast. They both belong down there, unfortunately. Surf and School Bus. Surf and School Bus. Really? What isn't to hate about Surf and School Bus? This thing gets spun out. It's like when an oil drum versus a Surf and School Bus is a kryptonite. The stunt is non-existent at 25, and I feel like it being bigger makes it feel even worse. It's a tank at 100 armor, but if you're constantly getting hit because you're such a big target, and it's slow and it takes forever to get up to speed, it's a cool meme car, and it's definitely fun to mess around with it, especially if like you and your friend are playing it at the same time. But let's be honest, it's useless in basically any facet. We all saw that coming. Twin Mill. I hate this car. Twin Mill 2 is a very cool design, and I like Twin Mill 2, but it's annoying. It sounds annoying. It's horrible grip at 30, horrible armor at 30, horrible stunt at 30, and speed at 44. You know, it's matched by other starter cars. Very piss poor. I don't like the livery. I have the actual toy version of this, and it looks way cooler on the toy, but I think it's ugly and useless and annoying to play as. And they added 2 taillights to make it look like a Corvette because most of these cars have taillights. I don't even think that's on the casting. Unfortunately, I'm going to put Twin Mill down at F tier. Not a fan. Last 2 here, we got Vulture. Vulture is the creme de la creme. Vulture is useful for just about everything. Let's pull up Vulture stats here. 30 armor, pretty dang bad. But it's so small, it's easy to miss this car. And like it's so evasive. 80 speed, extremely fast. 90 stunt, extremely good, especially considering how much smaller it is than Jet Threads, and it's flat. It's very easy to land stunts. And grip at 50 is about all you need. Vulture is the best well-rounder. It's a jack of all trades, but does 2 of them very well. One of the best at stunt, one of the best at speed. It's cool, low-slung, supercar. And the way that weapons are on its roof, everything looks cool on top of Vulture. I also think it's cool that this is more faithful to the actual toy design of Vulture than other renditions I've seen, like in Stunt Track Challenge or World Race, that are more long. Yeah, Vulture's probably my favorite car to play as in this game, other than maybe Diora 2 and Lakester. But it definitely is useful in every aspect. You can play this whole speed run with Vulture. It's probably your best bet. Last but not least, Way Too Fast. Way Too Fast is cool. It's got 2 big blown V8 engines. It's fast with a 60 stunt or 60 speed, but it suffers a little bit from the Surf and School Bus problem, where it's hard to maneuver and it's an easy target. And considering that Rieger motor is a little bit lower and has a better field of view, and it's faster, it's heavily flawed. The armor's weak, especially for a car you'd think would be a little bit higher. Grip is bad. Stunt is bad. I'm giving Way Too Fast D tier. I'm pretty confident with this list, realistically. You know, I'm looking at it, it's hard to think that Muscle Tone is better than Way Too Fast, but I think it is. Not everything comes down to stats. It's a lot about how a car drives and how a car feels. And I'm going to have to put Muscle Tone above it, even though, you know, it might not actually be on the same stat level when you look at the averages, but I don't know. I'm pretty confident in this list. It's kind of funny how it gets wider as it goes down. But let me know what you guys think, your thoughts on it, and my reasoning. This is going to be like a 40-minute video probably. I don't even know how long the timer's been going, but I wanted to make sure I gave it my full attention and time and did research so that, you know, I did research for the weapon tier list too, but not to this degree. This is like a video I've been waiting to make for a long time and did some research for it. So hope you guys found it enjoyable, and you can use this tier list in tiermaker.com. Look forward to more Velocity X content on this channel. My brother and I are both really back into the game and brainstorming ideas, and this was one of the more time-consuming but important ones I wanted to get out. So thank you for subscribing. Let's get to 1.4K if we're not already there. And thanks for supporting us for 9 years. Have a good rest of your day.